Hey everybody, this is Scott Sykes, Democrat for State Senate here in our 31st District in Eastern Kentucky. That makes up Elliott, Lawrence, Martin, Morgan, and Pike counties. Welcome to our new series. It's getting close and we are in the final days of this primary, and we are going to be doing a couple of videos. There's going to be a total of 4, and this is part 1 of 4, where we will be discussing each plank of my platform. I have my sister here with me. She's the only one that will sit with me, anyway. But especially late at night when we're shooting these things. But anyway, we're just trying to get the messaging out there and let you all know what this election is about and what my campaign is about. Again, I was the first to publish a platform, and I am the only candidate thus far that has an actual published platform where I discuss the specific issues that are facing the 31st District and really all of rural Kentucky. So it's not just something that we just threw down on paper. I've put a whole lot of thought into it, and these are real nonpartisan issues that everyone can agree on and which we need to address. So without any further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. Again, this is part 1 of our series, and today we're going to be talking about the economy. That's the number one thing on people's minds, and we are East Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we have to figure out what are we going to do and what leadership is going to do to make the pivot so that we can have a secure economy for our people. The cruelest thing that has happened to our people, in my opinion, is the false hope and false narrative that the coal industry is going to be coming back to save us. That is the cruelest thing you can do to a population that has suffered the economic ravages that we have encountered here in Eastern Kentucky and Central Appalachia, and also in Western Kentucky as well. They felt the effects. But we have to be able to make the pivot. We have to move forward. We have a phenomenal workforce here that has tremendous amount of potential, and we need to tap that potential and put our miners back to work and offer every person living in East Kentucky a job that pays a livable wage. One of the things that we discovered, we learned many things during this public health crisis, pandemic, COVID-19, whatever you want to call it. But we've learned many things. One is that just because everybody's making money on Wall Street doesn't mean that everybody's doing okay. The second thing is that healthcare should never be tied to a person's employment, because people need health insurance and access to affordable health care even if they find themselves to be unemployed. And it is wrong to tie benefits to a job and to offset pay. The other thing that we have learned is that we're not being paid a livable wage here. Many people who work in the restaurant industry or work in the customer service industry, many of them were affected by this virus and being laid off, and they were making more money drawing unemployment than they were by going to work. That right there, it's not gaming the system. That right there is our economy gaming them. They have to be able to work and provide for their families and have the dignity that comes with that livable wage to provide for their families. And it's wrong for companies to subsidize low pay by forcing their employees to go on Medicaid and to rely upon food stamps and to rely upon public housing in order to make it. These are some of the things that we discovered. It's not talked about on my platform, but I definitely talk about the economy and the direction that we were leading to in relation to COVID-19. and the discoveries that we made. I mean, it was the path. But Sis is here, Stephanie Richards, my sister, everyone, and she is going to kind of guide us through the discussion of this shortish video where we talk about the economy. Again, this is the number one plank of my platform. And yeah, the drum's been beat to death about what we're going to do about fixing the economy in Eastern Kentucky. Simple truth of the matter is, it needs to be discussed, but we need to work towards real issues that's going to carry that arc of change that we have to make. It's not going to be fixed overnight because it took us a long time to get to this point. It was lack of foresight and lack of understanding that really brought us to this critical mass. So we're putting it together, and we're talking about where we are with things, and we can go ahead. We can go ahead and start the discussion.
All right.
And also, like my page, comment on this video. If you have any questions or anything, write them in the comments. If you have any comments or anything, write them in the comments. It's important that I get your feedback. It's important that I hear what you are saying. I grew up on a creek. I lived next to a hog, so I get it. But I want everyone to know that I get it, and that I'm not just telling you what you want to hear or need to hear, but what I need is to hear from you, so we can move forward, and you can have the leadership that you deserve.
So on the economy, and that's your first plank.
Yes.
Of your platform.
Yes.
How did you decide that needed to be the number one issue?
I mean, you look around, and you can see the effects of our languishing economies. Yes. So whenever you have a man, because the coal industry is male dominated,
Mm-hmm.
all right. But whenever you have a man that has, that followed the footsteps of his father going into the coal mine and wanted to make a life for his family and a life for himself, and he goes into that hole in the mountain or climbs that switchback road up to the top of the mountain to make a life for his family, and that is taken from him. Whether and people will argue. People will argue all day. Well, it was the government that did it.
Automation.
Or it was. Some will argue that it was the government that did it. Some will argue that it was automation. Some will argue that it was just the effects of the global economy. All of those things formed a perfect storm here in Eastern Kentucky. So automation happened, and it was all, anybody that has mined coal, whether you're an operator or a miner, knows that the number one thing is it's about production.
Bottom line.
What are the what are the numbers? Where is the how many tons? How many cuts? That's all it's about. So whenever you see the push towards automation, it was all about increased production with less manpower. So and again, coal is a non-renewable resource. It was a finite resource, a limited resource here in the mountains, and that coupled with the global economy, China coming online, Russia starting to be engaged in the global economy and using their vast natural resources in energy production. Germany, you just saw this whole economy just in globalization, and we weren't prepared for that. So that's really what happened with the coal industry, and with the loss of the coal, of miners losing their job and families having to move away. This is our home. No one wants to leave their home. So whenever we look and we see what the number one issue is, everyone says it's jobs. Yes, it is, because the jobs have gone. And many of the women are going into the into the workforce now. Nursing is huge here. Pikeville Medical Center here in Pike County, or any ARH or any large hospital, they have several satellites, or they're conglomerates, and they have several smaller community hospitals or whatever. But the medical industry has picked up, and it's the women and even some younger men are going into nursing because they are seeing that as the only viable alternative.
Right.
And you have education being the top employer in the counties. So it is, it's education in most counties. Here in Pike County, it's the private employer is Pikeville Medical Center, and you have the Pike County Public School System, the Pike County School Board being the larger employer, and then you have county government. Okay, and that's it. And whenever you take that and you repeat it 5 different times across the counties that are here, that's some pretty alarming issues. Not to mention, you're up there in Elliott County and Lawrence County and Morgan County. They lost the tobacco industry. All right, and a whole lot, and that happened 20, 30 years ago. So now we're starting to see, and we've forgotten about that. They haven't, but many have, and so those tobacco settlement funds that they got, those were depleted. Counties, they lost the co-severance tax dollars; those were gone. So you're losing county services. You're losing the ability to reinvest and retool the economy, invest in water lines, invest in the infrastructure necessary to ensure the quality of life of people. So those are, and again, that comes back to jobs. That comes back to what are we going to do to make the pivot. And I keep on saying it because it is about making a turn.
Yeah.
It is about making that turn. But we have to make that turn. We have to make that pivot and figure out which path are we going to blaze in reinventing ourselves here in Eastern Kentucky. And I honestly believe that infrastructure is the backbone of an economy. And we have to have that infrastructure in place. 23 is a vital resource for us. 460, that is the linchpin pin which will hold it all together. We have to have 460, and I'm not just talking about what they call 460. I'm talking about the Mountain Parkway as well.
Right.
And so it's going to connect Lexington to
the Virginia line.
Past the Virginia line, the Cofield Expressway, Roanoke. So Lexington to Roanoke is what it's going to be, and that is the main avenue to the southeast. That opens up this area tremendously, and that's some of the things that we have to think about and talk about. But we're talking about infrastructure. We need to talk.
We're still on economy now.
It all ties together.
It does. It
all
does.
ties
And you
together.
do. And you are one of the best that I know at looking at the different pieces and seeing the connectivity of them. You are really good at that. So I'm going to bring us back to the economy.
Yes.
Right? I do want to get one thing out of the way, and you didn't know this was coming. So are you for coal or against coal? Because people want to know that.
No one is against coal. I mean, it's the life. It's our heritage. I mean, we talked about my grandfather, and and y'all can't see because we had to change the camera angle and everything. But, and this isn't a prop, all right? But this is my grandfather's carbide light. Now I've got a couple of different ones up there of his. So, I mean, it's my family.
How tall was Papa?
He was 6'3".
Papa was 6'3".
Mined in 36-inch seam coal. And he was
Union coal mine.
Union coal mine, UMWA, and I remember his black hat. Whenever he was would come home and everything. Ma'am always cook at the school.
Yeah.
And anyway, but you know, there is no he's against coal. There is, I mean, how, first off, how can you be against an inanimate object? Secondly, how can you be against an industry that put food on your table and provided, you know, economic security so your father, you know, so your father growing up would be okay. I mean, it's impacted every family. My mother, you know, she taught. Without the coal industry, who would she teach? I mean, it's such a symbiotic relationship, and it runs through, you know, that coal, you know, it's part of us. It's ingrained in us, and that's the unique thing that people get about East Kentucky. You know, I mean, well, it's the enigma of Eastern Kentucky because they don't understand us. Outside people don't understand us, but you have it's a passion.
Mm-hmm.
The coal and the pride and the history is a passion, and it's part of our culture, and it's ingrained in us.
And as a Democrat, we know that Obama put the EPA restrictions in place before he put an industry in place.
Yes.
To take care of the absence of coal.
Yes.
So I wanted to get that out on the table as well.
Well, I mean, you know, it's no secret that people away from here, all right, whether, and it doesn't matter which party you're on,
Mm-hmm.
all right, they've gotten the cart ahead of the horse several times. And it's fine to you know, say we're going to protect the water, we're going to protect the environment, we're going to do these things, but okay, it comes down to an industry perspective as well, all right, and I think that we need to be real about the history of the coal industry if we're going to be having a frank discussion about coal. You know, back before the Union, and when men were fighting for the Union,
Right.
you know, we had National Guard troops come in because the coal don't stop.
Right.
We had a machine gun nest trained on our men as they walked into a mine to make sure they didn't get out of line. We've had, you know, shots fired. We've had people killed, and there's been blood spilled over coal, over this natural resource in these mountains. And, you know, we can talk about false hope that the coal industry is coming back, but we also have to remember that the number one responsibility that a corporation has is not to its employees, it's to its shareholders. And that moment that they can no longer mine that resource at a profit that is suitable to the shareholders to return that investment. That's the moment their men are idled just like that mine and put on the shelf like a tool. And that is unconscionable. I went over, you know, I mean, whenever I first filed, and I heard that they were blocking the train over at oh Lord, there it's on the tracks over there towards Kemper, you know, over towards Kemper, and Blackburn Bottom.
Yes.
Yeah, and I heard about it, and I looked at that. I said, "We gotta go over there." And it was like 9 o'clock at night, and Dad's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "I gotta go." So we jumped in the truck and went over there, and I printed off a couple copies of my platform. I didn't go over there to pander, and I told them that, you know, and stuff. I said, "I'm not here." I said, "But I'm here to stand with you and let you know that, you know, wage theft is, you know, should be criminal." And so those men had mined a train full, a unit, over 100 cars of coal. and they blocked the coal from being delivered because the company had not paid them their wages.
Right.
And there was some dispute about that, but you know, when a man's not paid, he knows it, and it's not right to short somebody their pay, regardless of the work that they do. But when a company is going to be profiting millions of dollars on that delivery, and those men are struggling making their truck payment, house payment, you know, life payment,
Right.
it's not right. So I went over there and talked to them and everything, and found out what was going on. It was late. Came back, and they didn't have a tent over there at that time. And I went over in the shed, same night, and took a tent back over there to them. Went to Walmart. You know, everything was shut down. Got some donuts for them, and went over there and sat by and hung out with them for a couple of hours.
And listen.
You know, and just listened while we were talking around the fire and everything, and just talking.
So now that we've got your philosophies laid out on economy, let's talk a little bit about the action steps that you see. So I know you talked to me about the approach, the action steps have to be multi-layered.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to me about, so beyond we need jobs, beyond that, what are you looking to do? What are you prepared to do to make your platform have action as a senator?
We have to have someone that's going to work to make sure we have the resources necessary to succeed. Okay, we have to see. Okay, my experience has been working in economic development,
Mm-hmm.
working in community development. We have to have someone that understands what the nuances of recruiting industry is, and someone who understands that. You know, working for the Chamber of Commerce down in Chattanooga, Tennessee. That's really where I cut my teeth on seeing how things go and how things progress. You know, and what to do to make the pivot. Okay.
Right.
But we have to have leadership that understands the importance of having infrastructure. Okay, and it keeps on going back to infrastructure. But we also have to ensure that we have a trained and ready workforce as well. The location is prime here, because really whenever you look at Eastern Kentucky,
Mm-hmm.
and you look at our proximity to Atlanta, or proximity to Charleston, South Carolina, our proximity to New York, I mean the whole East Coast, and gateway to the West.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Cincinnati, St. Louis, we are we are like center of the bullseye of being able to go to, you know, to provide resources and materials to these places.
It's almost like the airport maps where you see the planes flying,
Mm-hmm.
and like Atlanta,
Yeah.
and one of the hubs.
Yeah, it's a hub.
Yeah.
So this, you know, so the reality is this could be a hub for new development.
Mm-hmm.
But we're in a new economy as well. So it's not just about the roads.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about the rail. It's not just about the water. Being able to ship on water, which we're in very close proximity to the Ohio River as well.
Right.
I mean, you know, it runs right through it. But it's also about the broadband connectivity. It's also about, you know, the digital age. So you don't have to be anchored or tethered to a brick and mortar place any longer. We are in a global economy where things are happening at the speed of business, and
COVID has certainly shown us that shift is happening.
Yeah, and I mean, and again, there's several things that would that COVID that you know the pandemic, you know, public health crisis, COVID, whatever you want to call it, has demonstrated to us. So whenever you see this shift, as we call it, you know, to working at home or teleworking or whatever you want to call it, all right, it shows that we are in a place here in East Kentucky that we can definitely move and take advantage, but we have to have reliable internet, just, you know, to be able to do that. That is a component of the economy, because there is no company that is going to locate here and make that multi-billion dollar investment. And you're talking about multi-billion of dollars over 10, 15, 20 years, all right? But they're not going to make that long-term investment if they can't ensure that their management and senior staff doesn't have a quality of life that they can enjoy here and retain that skill set here in this place. I mean, yeah, sure, we have beautiful mountains, we have magnificent streams, we have some phenomenal fishing, great ATVs, you know, all the recreational things that we can develop and stuff as far as it goes with tourism, which is another component of economic development. But all that's well and good, but until you are able to provide those comforts that come from you know, being, and not everyone's looking for the hustle and bustle, but they are looking for, you know, dependable internet.
Connectivity.
Yeah, they want to be able to be connected, and they want to be able to have that access. And whether it's a shorter drive to Lexington, or, you know, faster internet speed so they can telecommute to work, or, you know, Zoom, Skype, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's that's where we are right now.
So we need broadband.
Well, yeah.
We need broadband. We need industry, infrastructure to support industry.
Yes.
I'm reviewing what you said. So we need broadband. We need infrastructure to support incoming industry.
Mm-hmm.
We need community and economic development people who know what industry would work here.
Mm-hmm.
How do you avoid the situations that we've had where an industry says, yeah, we'll come, and then they don't?
We can go ahead and name them out: Brady Industries and Interblue.
How do you avoid those?
You lock them in. You put a, you know, and it also happened with call center, no relation to me, all right, but Sykes Enterprises. That was the
one.
That was the first big misstep that economic development efforts made back here, and again, no relation, all right. But they came in and everything was given to them on a silver platter. Everything.
We were just
everything.
so happy
You know,
to have
just
them.
so happy to have them and everything. And I actually worked for the company.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But they came in and everything was given to them on a silver platter. The property that they built the building on was given to them. Kentucky Cabinet for Workforce Development supplemented their pay, so that so that the $7 an hour was supplemented, I think, by $2 an hour, or maybe even $3. Anyway, I know that was supplemented, and so you saw and again, that really wasn't a groundbreaking wage, all right, to be paying your people, but it was new technology, it was new industry, and it was something that was innovative and a burgeoning industry. But they came in, and as soon, the moment, the night that those tax incentives, and the employment tax, they had a break on employment tax as well, along with the supplementing the pay, all right. Mm-hmm. And the moment that those went out, those expired, boom, gone, all right. And they were given the property, so they owned the building and they owned the property, which was a resource and they profited from the sale of that.
Sure.
All right, and so I mean, we have and with Brady, I mean, you know, we gave, you know, the state gave them, you know, millions of dollars to you know, on empty promises. What needs to happen, all right, and with Interblue, they came here and held their hand out, and then they, you know, poked around just like, oh well, we can't build here because the ground isn't stable enough at the industrial park that that, you know, that is there in Pikeville. So, you know, that's our out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Wow. And you talk about false hope.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, because, you know, what are they saying, they're going to be paying $35 an hour? I mean, it's wrong. But not the $35 an hour, but telling people.
So you tighten the contracts.
No, you don't just tighten the contracts. What you do is you make sure that they have skin in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So if they don't own up to their end of the bargain, not only do they have to pay back every dime, but it's with interest. And it's not one of these things where you go to court like what Pike County had to do
Mm-hmm.
with what was it, the Big Show
Big Show.
project, but and again another failure. But it's automatic, and they can't get out of it from bankruptcy. I mean, you know, you're really locking these companies in. So once they commit, they're committed, and there is no backing out, and there is no, well, can you give us a little bit more either? No, we have to have strict contracts, and we have to also make sure that these companies are coming in good faith. And that comes in a vetting process as well.
What about local entrepreneurs?
I think that
So people who want to run a small business locally.
we have to provide the resources for local entrepreneurs. So whenever we look at okay, small business is the backbone of every local economy. All right, but whenever you have the big box stores come in,
Mm-hmm.
and you see that shift being made, people can't compete with that, and especially whenever you're dealing with the struggling economy like we have, and then you have the big box stores coming in who can absorb those you know, low prices and everything because it's distributed over a, you know, global company.
Right.
All right, that's putting them at an unfair advantage and putting a whole lot of pressure on the small guy being able to keep up. We have some of the most talented and innovative people here in Eastern Kentucky, and we have to cultivate that and provide them with the SBA loans, provide them with, you know, just the resources so that they can have that breath, so that they can take that chance, and so that they can work on making their dream come true. I mean, everyone talks about, you know, well, capitalism is great. Yes, it is, as long as it's working for you.
Sure.
But if you're working for it, it's not so good. We have to have more people here stepping up who, and by having them step up, we have to be in a supporting role for them, so that they're brave enough to take that first step, and they can work on bringing their idea or their innovation or their passion to life.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to do that. So small business is key, and it's the small businesses that make our communities as well. So when, you know, people talk about Pikeville back in the old days with Murphy's Department Store and JC, you know, it was JC Murphy's and Hobbs and Watson's. Okay. And we remember those places, all right? And those are just the ones that come to my mind right now. I mean, I know there are several there in downtown Pikeville, but we have to have those stores back and those people, those owners back in our communities, so we can have that sense of community once again.
When we were growing up, Elkhorn City, we didn't have to leave Elkhorn to get anything if we didn't
No.
want to.
No.
It's where we could get. I got my graduation dress in Elkhorn.
I remember going there to the shoe store there in Elkhorn, across from where the library is, and getting new tennis shoes. I still, man, going into the True Value hardware store, those floors still creak in the same place.
Yeah.
And it's just that sound that you always heard growing up. And it's part of our community. And each community has that unique story, that unique feeling, and that brings that nostalgia and that remembrance and that sense of community. And we can't lose that. And I really think that we need to work, and that's one small component of rebuilding our economy. But we also have to ensure that we have, it keeps on coming back. We have to ensure that we have people here who are making enough money with a livable wage so that they can, be customers with these community-based businesses. So we can once again restore that sense of community that we had here in our mountains.
As far as community and economic development, I give the example a lot. If I were a single parent from McCarr, and I lived in McCarr with my children, and I had a service job at McDonald's in Pikeville, because you can't stay at McCarr and work.
No.
So I would have to weigh out, okay, or if I worked at Walmart and I left McCarr to drive to Walmart and do my minimum wage job and come back and fix supper for my kids and get them to school the next day, and my box store employer cuts my time back, and I have no health benefits. At some point, as a single mother, I'm going to have to make the smart choice of living on the welfare system, because health insurance for my children is really important. And I can make more money on the system than I can trying to have an honest job and drive from McCarr, Kentucky to Walmart and back each day.
But let's talk about that for a second, all right? And the other thing that we've learned, all right, with COVID-19, okay, was that essential jobs aren't just,
Shouldn't be minimum wage.
Yeah, essential jobs aren't just, doctors. Essential jobs weren't even lawyers, because that was, next. But those essential jobs were the people that were standing there at the cash register, and the people that were serving you, that were fixing your food at the fast food restaurants, those that were driving the trucks to make sure that the shelves were stocked and that we had, resupplies of toilet paper. I mean, it was, those were the essential jobs. Yeah, some of them paid more than others, but you know what? Those part-time employees who are getting paid $10 an hour and not benefits were classified as essential employees, and they weren't making a livable wage.
Right.
All right. I mean, but they're essential. That person, at the Double Quick, they're at the cash register. They're and this is before they put the plexiglass or anything up, and they're taking your money, and they're out there dealing with hundreds of people a day during that shift. They're putting their personal health on the line. To be able to provide a living for their families, because they were considered essential, yet they were making minimum wage, or just barely above minimum wage, so they can, so the company can be like, okay, we're not paying minimum wage. But that's the big thing that we need to walk away with right now, and realize that where we are as a country, where our economy really is. It's not the best economy in the world whenever you have people that are relying upon government assistance to be able to provide for their families. And when I say that, I'm talking about putting food on the table with SNAP benefits, putting a roof over their head with HUD, all right, and you know, providing health insurance because they qualify for Medicaid. If you work, you shouldn't have to rely upon government assistance. Your job should be able to pay you enough to do that. And these companies are subsidizing their low wages by forcing the employees to go on these benefits. And then you have the audacity of you know, some people in politics. All right, we're trying to be clean and nonpartisan here, but there's some people that point the finger at them and condemn them because, you know, oh, you're milking the system, you're living off the system. I've got to have this to survive, because you know what? That capitalist economy and this great economy that you're bragging about,
right,
isn't putting food on my table. It's not. I'm not being paid enough to be able to provide for my family in this great economy.
I've heard my whole life that you should have 3 months saved up. You should have 3 months of living expenses saved up for bad times. I have a great job. I don't have 3 months saved up. So this great economy that we're living in, and I know I'm very blessed, and I still don't have that 3 months of living expenses saved.
That cushion, no.
I don't have it.
No. How many of you all have 3 months? Think about it. Those of y'all watching this, think about it. Look at your bank account. Look at your savings. Not retirement, but just savings. And tell me, do you have 3 months? I'm curious. Because no, I don't. And I know a lot of people that don't. So, interesting to have that little poll out there.
So to wrap up, on economy, the first plank of your platform,
Yes.
we're looking at infrastructure to allow industry to come into our area,
Yes.
re-educating our coal miners and our other great workforce to be able to serve in those industries. Community and economic development leaders, resource people who know what industry to go look for and court, and how to bring them in and tie them into the area.
Lock them in.
Right. Support for our small business entrepreneurs. Is there anything else you wanted to add to that?
I believe that covers it.
I think so.
So, but one thing that we have to do, okay, we have to understand that it took us a long time to get to this point. And it's going to take us a long time to get out. There is not going to be anyone riding on a white horse to save us.
No.
We have to look within and to ourselves to do it. And we have to have leadership in place that's going to support our people as we find our way in this new economy. Because again, we've seen a big shift in things here in 2020. COVID-19 has taught us a lot. We can learn from that, and we can again make the pivot and be able to move forward. We are at a crossroads, and it is.
I think we can feel it.
It is.
I think we can all feel it.
It is the decisions that we make right now in this moment that are going to determine which path we take forward. And it's not just here in Eastern Kentucky. It's across this country, and we are at the cusp of change.
And in order for America to succeed, rural America has to succeed.
I've said this many times. Appalachia is the backbone of the United States, and if you can get Appalachia motivated and working and re-energize Appalachia with new work and new potential and a new economy, then all of this country will boom. And the reason I'm saying that is because the messages and the way that our people are, what vibrates with us, what vibes with us, that reverberates across the country.
Mm-hmm.
So as we retool, as we work, as we expand, as we grow, as we rediscover ourselves, I think that will put not only Eastern Kentucky and Central Appalachia on a path for prosperity, but I think that will set our whole country on a path, because when people in Eastern Kentucky do well, you're right, everyone does well. But we have to make sure that we're paying the people here a comparable wage to every place else. We can no longer sell our people short and undercut them just because we're starving for a job to provide for our families. We deserve the same wage that a person does living in any other state.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know what? It comes down to dignity. And it's time for the people of Eastern Kentucky to have the dignity that comes with being able to provide for their families and having a good job to do it.
I think that's where we end.
I think so. All right. Okay. Well, this went a little bit longer than what we intended. But again, this is Scott Sykes. This is my sister Stephanie Richards. We're talking about the economy and my platform, the first plank of my platform. This is the first video in a series of 4. If you have any questions or anything, please message me on Facebook or comment below. Again, Scott Sykes running for state senate here in our 31st district. That makes up Elliott, Lawrence, Martin, Morgan, and Pike counties. The election is on June 23rd. Be sure to get out and vote. You can go to www.govoteki.com and request your absentee ballot, or you can contact your county court clerk and request an absentee ballot, or you can go in and vote right now and do early voting. And also you can always vote on election day on June 23rd. So that's it. Do appreciate your all's time. Again, like, comment on this video, share it, please, and I'm asking you for your vote. So be good to each other and be kind to each other.